Welcome back to Power Squared. In the last episode, Josh and I showed you how you could use one prompt to generate an entire shell of an app, which is pretty amazing. In today's episode, we're going to take it that one step further, where you can actually use it with Dataverse. So we'll bring the Dataverse data in and it will start to feel like a real app. Before we get to that, there's something I wanted to show you. We've had some amazing comments from our viewers, lots of interesting questions, and one of the things that came up was from YouTube account 6981. And he quoted us saying our goal isn't just to show you a cool trick. And he was asking why we wouldn't share the prompt. Well, we're happy to share the prompt and we've done so. So we're now putting everything into a GitHub repository. And from within there, you can get not just the prompts that we used to scaffold that initial timesheets interface, but also you can get the code for each of our episodes now. So we'll be uploading it or committing it to GitHub every episode. So let's get into this one, shall we? So we've gone ahead and we've created this timesheet solution. We know that you already know how to do things within Power Platform, and that's why you're watching these videos. So we're not going to show you how to create a Dataverse table and things like that. We've already done it. We've created a timesheet table. We've created entries that belong to the timesheets, and every entry will be linked through to a project. It's pretty straightforward stuff. That's not really the important part. The important part is how do you actually get that data coming through into your code app? So let's show how you do that. So in the documentation here, we've got how to connect your code app to Dataverse. And as we scroll down here, you can see that there are some prerequisites. So you need the Power Apps Code Apps SDK. You don't need to worry about that. Pack CLI, you don't need to worry about that. An environment with Dataverse enabled, blah, blah, blah. We've already done all of this stuff. We don't need to worry about it. So that's amazing. All we need to do is go to the steps. So ensure we're connected to our environment using the Pack CLI. We've already set that up. So it's actually only one thing that we need to look at, which is adding that data source to our app. So we can copy that code and then we can go into VS Code and we've got it open here. Since our last episode, I copied all of the files into a folder called episode 2, and I've just now copied those files back out of there into our main directory. What this does mean is that we need to do npm install again, or npm i. So we need to reinstall those packages. So let's just give that a second to run through the installation of those packages, and then we'll get on to adding our data source from Power Apps. Okay, now that's all done. I'm going to type in clear and press enter just so that we've got a clean terminal. So now what we want to do is we want to paste in that code and then have a look at it. So it's the Pack CLI, it's code apps. We're adding a data source. The data source API name is Dataverse, and then we need to add the table logical name. So we need to go back into Power Apps to get our table logical name. Another way of doing it could be to find it out through the Pack CLI, but it's actually really easy to do through the Maker portal. So in the Maker portal here, all we need to do is to go to each of our tables and then add them as a data source. So we'll go to tools here, copy logical name, back into here, and then press enter. And then hopefully, et voila, it's done, sorted. So what has that actually done? Well, we have a .power folder now. And if we open this up, we've got app schemas, and I'll zoom in a bit to make it really obvious, app schemas, and we've got Dataverse. So these are the two different things that we're going to get when we add Dataverse as our data source. If we have a look at the data source info.ts, so it's a TypeScript file, this is basically just saying, like, here's our data source, and then here's a bit of metadata about it. So there's the primary key. It's a Dataverse table. That's pretty much it. Maybe some of these parts are actually placeholder for something coming in the future. I'm not really too sure. Then in the Dataverse folder, we've got the schema for our timesheets table, and this has all of the columns. So it's got a ton of information. But this information is what our AI agent is going to need in order to understand how to interact with it. So we've got that sorted, which is great. We need to add the next table. So let's go back into our terminal, and then instead of timesheet, we go to the next table that we want to add. Let's say project actually makes the most sense, I think. And then copy the logical name, paste that in there, press enter, and it will do the same thing for that. And there we go. And so now we've got that in there. So if we look at data source info, now this also has our projects table, and then we've also now got this JSON file which has the schema for our projects table. So it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? There's nothing really to worry about there. Now we'll go to our timesheet entry and do exactly the same thing. Copy the logical name. In the terminal, I'm going to, once it's highlighted now, I'm going to press up, which gives us the last piece of code that we ran, and then we can just delete the table name there, paste in the new one, press enter, and then it's going to add that to our app. So then what that means is that we've got all of our 3 Dataverse tables inside of our app available to use, but we're not yet using them, are we? Let's open up the app. So npm run div to run our dev app. We can open it up in Power Apps, or we can just open it up in our local host. Let's open it up in Power Apps because we're accessing Dataverse. Of course, the first time it needs a bit more time to fetch the app. And then here we go. Here's our Timesheets app. And at the moment, not connected to data at all. So looking at the projects there, they're placeholder. If we go and look at our projects table, we actually only have the one project, which is Vibe Coded App Project. So that's what we would expect to see in here. So how do we get this into the app? Well, we would use a prompt, right? So what kind of prompt can we come up with? At the moment, our design is just a placeholder. Can you now link it through to the projects, timesheets, and timesheet entries tables from Dataverse so that we can see the real data coming through? We'll just give that a go and see what happens. So now Claude Opus is thinking, it understands what we want to do, but it needs to go and look at our code to understand like how does it all really fit together. And there's not really much information within our files, within our repository to tell it what to do. It's actually able to gain all of this information from very little data. So it says now it has a complete picture, which is amazing. The app uses mock data, but has generated Dataverse services available. It's going to update it. So you can see that our Vite server is reloading there. And so what it's doing is as the files are changing, it's hot reloading. That's essentially what's going on. And our AI agent, Claude Opus 4.5, is going through editing our files in order to hook them up to the data source. And we're not actually looking at any code at this stage. So this is proper vibe coding. Now it's a few minutes later and it's telling me that it's done. It's giving me a summary of the changes. One of the things that it's done is in number 6, it's actually added submit functionality. Let me make this bigger and zoom in a bit. So the key changes: imported Dataverse, that's what we wanted. It's updated data types, that's great. It's added data loading, which is really nice. It's added a dynamic project dropdown, which is what we wanted. Loading spinner when the data is being fetched, this is fantastic. But it's added submit functionality, so it means that maybe we can actually save our timesheet entries already, even though I wasn't even asking for that. And the week navigation now works when we navigate between weeks. So apparently this all works. The app will now display real data from your Dataverse tables and save changes back when we submit a timesheet. So let's give it a go, shall we? So we're looking at the current week. If we go back, then we can see that we've got 7.5 hours here. And I know that I've got that in there as a timesheet entry. So let's look at our timesheet entry. So we've got a timesheet here, the date of the 18th, 7.5 hours, and the project is Vibe Coded App Project. So looking here, well, we've got the project there, but it's not bringing it through. Let's have a go at saving something. Let's say today, Monday, January the 19th, we're going to do a Vibe Coded project. We're spending an hour on it. What did we work on? Our YouTube video. And then we submit for approval. Is that how it works? Maybe. So now if we go away from that and then we go back to that, it's missing. So I'm not really sure what's happened, but when we come into here, what do we see? Do we have a new timesheet? And we don't have a new timesheet. So that's not working the way that we want it to. There's clearly something going on there. What about the project? Can we fix this? So we know we have a project that should be available. And at the moment, the project is not showing here. So let's create a new chat. And how should we frame this? The timesheet is loading accurately, but the project is not showing. Can you fix that? So I'm giving it a prompt that is not full of detail. I'm being relatively vague, and I want to show you just how clever this can be without giving it too much. You're telling it what you want, but not really much detail around it. So it's having to assume some things. It's also having to go and investigate some things. And we'll see whether that's good enough. So it believes that it's found what the issue is and it believes that it's fixed it. Let's have a look. So over here, I'm going to do a hard refresh. And now if we go back to the 18th, it's still not showing. And in fact, it's not showing anything at all. Now my timesheet isn't showing at all. So it's telling me again that it's fixed the issue, but let's actually see. Have you really fixed it this time? So if we go back to the 18th, and now it's actually fixed. So this is pretty cool. It took a little bit of talking about it and figuring things out, but it's finally brought through the information. So let's not worry about submitting the data for now. We're happy that we've got the data coming through from Dataverse. So what we want to do is we want to push this into our environment. How can we do that? So we want to push our app into a solution, into an environment. So if we come to the docs and we go to how to application lifecycle management for code apps, within here, we've got some documentation on how to add to a specific solution. So let's copy that and paste it into VS Code. So we'll paste that in there and we need to choose our solution name. But before we do that, we haven't actually built this yet, have we? We need to build it. So we need to do npm run build because it's the build of the application that's going to get pushed through. So we've got an issue here saying that we've got some models that are declared but never read. So what we can do with this is we can just copy that and then we can open up our chat and then we can create a new chat and we can paste that in and then we can get Opus to deal with it for us. So these are TypeScript errors. They're not an issue with the functionality, but they do need to be fixed in order for it to build. Fantastic. It's saying that the build should now work. So let's give it another go. We'll close that, clear this, npm run build, and there we go. Now let's clear that out again. So to see all of the solutions in our environment, we can do pack solution list, and then we'll find the solution that we want to push this to. So here's our solution, timesheet solution. So we'll copy that, and then in the solution name, we will type in timesheet solution. And there we go. App has been successfully pushed. So now we can test it. So the app's loading up, and this is actually playing from Power Apps now. So we are actually here logged into Power Apps, and we don't need VS Code at all anymore, and it will be here. And if we move backwards to the 18th, we can see that we've got our Dataverse details in there. So that's how you push it to a solution. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've got loads more to cover in this series, and we're making great progress. So see you in the next one.